When you're strong, your power isn't in how loud you get or how quickly you fire back. It's in the pause. The moment you give yourself before you react tells the world you're not controlled by impulse, pressure, or someone else's behavior. This idea alone can change how you navigate arguments, stress, and uncomfortable conversations. Today, we're breaking down why strong people never react first and how you can master the same skill. Strong people understand that reacting first means giving away control because the moment you react impulsively, you hand your emotions over to the situation instead of keeping them in your own hands. When you react instantly, you're no longer choosing your response. The moment is choosing it for you. Strong people don't like that exchange. They want to stay grounded enough to decide what deserves their energy and what doesn't. That pause gives them the space to breathe, to observe, to let the emotional spark settle just enough so they can see things as they are, not as they feel in the heat of the moment. That ability to pause is what keeps them steady when everyone else is spinning. When someone tries to provoke you, pressure you, or pull you into their emotional storm, the first reaction is almost always raw emotion. It's survival mode, not clarity. Strong people know this, so they don't let the first wave of frustration, irritation, or defensiveness drive the conversation. They've learned that the loudest reaction is often the weakest position because it shows the other person exactly where your buttons are and how easily they can push them. That's why they hold back, not out of fear, but out of confidence. They refuse to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing them lose control or act in a way they'll regret later. There's a quiet power in being able to sit with your emotions instead of throwing them at someone. Strong people master that silence, that moment where they feel everything but say nothing. They let the emotion wash through them without letting it spill out. They don't need to prove themselves in the moment because they already know who they are. And this lack of urgency to react tells the world something important. They can feel deeply without being controlled by what they feel. That balance makes them intimidating in the best way, calm, steady, unshakable. Strong people also understand that reacting first often escalates things that don't need escalation. Most arguments get worse because two emotional reactions collide at full speed. But when one person stays calm, grounded, and deliberate, the intensity drops. The situation stops being a battle and becomes a conversation. Strong people choose to react last because it allows the other person to let out whatever they need to say. And once that energy is released, the strong person can address the real issue without the emotional fog. They create space where solutions can exist instead of fueling the conflict. Another reason they don't react first is because they know the difference between responding and reacting, and the gap between the two is power. Reacting is instant. It's emotional. Responding is intentional. It's thoughtful. Strong people choose intention every time because intention keeps them in control of their words, tone, and direction. They understand that every word spoken in anger becomes something you might have to apologize for later. So they pause, they think, they choose the version of themselves they want to show up as, not the version the situation tries to force out of them. And ultimately, strong people don't react first because they value their peace above temporary emotional release. They know that giving in to impulse feels good for a moment, but costs you long-term control, confidence, and clarity. They'd rather stay steady than be right. They'd rather stay composed than be reactive. They'd rather walk away with their self-respect intact than win an argument that never mattered. Their strength isn't loud, it's quiet, intentional, and rooted in self-control. And that's why they never react first, because the person who reacts first loses control, but the person who waits gains it. Strong people practice emotional discipline by creating space between stimulus and response because they understand that the first emotion is not the final truth. When something triggers them, they don't immediately trust the surge of irritation, fear, or defensiveness that rises up. Instead, they allow that emotion to pass through before deciding what to do with it. This space they create isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about approaching it with clarity instead of chaos. They know that nothing good comes from decisions made in the middle of an emotional spike. so they give themselves permission to slow down. That slowing down becomes their strength. That pause is powerful because it gives them time to question what they're feeling instead of acting on autopilot. Strong people don't let their emotions run the show. They observe them, almost like stepping outside themselves for a moment and watching what's happening internally. They ask quietly, is this about the situation or is this about me? That question alone creates a massive shift. Instead of reacting based on old habits, insecurities, or emotional baggage, they respond based on the truth of the moment. This ability to separate emotion from action is what keeps them steady when others lose themselves in the heat of the situation. Emotional discipline doesn't come from being cold or detached. It comes from understanding your own emotional patterns well enough to not drown in them. Strong people have done the work of noticing what triggers them and why. They've seen the consequences of reacting too fast, the arguments, the misunderstandings, the moments they wish they could take back. Over time, they learn that discipline is freedom, the freedom to respond in a way that reflects who they want to be, not who they are in a moment of frustration. And once they experience that freedom, they refuse to go back to letting impulse run their life. The space between stimulus and response also protects their clarity in ways most people underestimate. When you react instantly, you're operating through a haze, a clouded mind that's fueled by emotion instead of reason. But strong people use that pause to gather information, read the room, analyze intentions, and understand the deeper layer beneath what's happening. Maybe the other person is stressed. Maybe the conversation isn't about you. Maybe you misinterpreted their tone. That clarity can completely change the direction of the moment. A situation that could have turned explosive transforms into something manageable simply because one person chose patience over impulse. Strong people also know that emotional discipline builds trust, not just with others, but with themselves. When you can rely on your ability to stay calm, you stop fearing difficult conversations. You stop avoiding conflict. You stop feeling overwhelmed by strong feelings because you know you can handle them without losing control. This kind of self-trust is rare, but it makes you stronger in every area of your life. It shows up in relationships, at work, in arguments, and in the way you talk to yourself. People begin to feel safer around you because they know you won't explode, shut down, or react unpredictably. At the core of emotional discipline is the choice to be intentional rather than reactive. Strong people choose intention every single time because they know that knee-jerk reactions usually create more damage than the situation itself. They've learned that their strength doesn't come from overpowering others. It comes from mastering themselves. So they take the pause, they breathe, they wait for the emotion to settle before giving their response. And in doing so, they communicate something powerful without ever saying it out loud. I control my emotions. My emotions don't control me. That's the mindset that protects their peace, their clarity, and their strength. And it's why they never react first. Strong people know that silence is not weakness, it is strategy, and they use it deliberately in every interaction because it has power that words can never match. When someone tries to provoke, pressure, or manipulate, the first impulse is often to speak, to defend, or to fight back. But strong people understand that responding immediately usually feeds the energy of the situation rather than controlling it. By choosing silence, they create a space where tension can settle and clarity can emerge. In that quiet, the truth often comes out on its own, and people reveal their intentions, insecurities, and real feelings without even realizing it. The strong person doesn't need to push or prod, they simply observe, and the situation unfolds naturally. Silence gives them an advantage because it allows observation over reaction. In that moment, strong people can watch body language, hear tone shifts, and notice patterns in behavior that would be missed if they were focused on reacting. While others are caught up in the noise of emotion, the strong person is gathering information, decoding motives, and anticipating outcomes. This is not passive waiting, it's active awareness. The pause allows them to respond later with insight instead of impulse. And when they finally speak, their words carry weight, not because they yelled louder or faster, but because they chose the right moment to communicate, and the other person is already revealing themselves. Strong people also understand that silence protects their energy. Reacting first drains it, often for outcomes that don't matter. By staying quiet, they avoid being pulled into unnecessary arguments, unnecessary stress, and unnecessary emotional chaos. They know that once a reaction is made, it can't be taken back, and the emotional cost is always higher than the perceived benefit. Silence becomes a shield, keeping them centered while others scatter emotionally. It allows them to conserve their focus for situations where action is truly needed and ensures that their energy is invested in ways that actually serve them, not in chasing reactions from others. Another important aspect of using silence strategically is that it creates natural accountability in others. People feel the absence of an immediate reaction, and that absence often makes them more thoughtful, more honest, or more revealing. Strong people recognize this and never rush to fill the space. They let others speak, let them stumble, let them reveal what they are really thinking or feeling. That space exposes motives and intentions in a way that no amount of argument or confrontation can. By staying silent first, strong people gain an informational and emotional edge, positioning themselves to act with precision rather than out of frustration. Silence also communicates confidence and control without a single word. Others instinctively feel the strength of someone who doesn't need to prove themselves instantly. It signals that you are grounded, self-assured, and not at the mercy of the situation or the other person's emotional state. This quiet authority is far more powerful than aggression because it is unexpected and calm, yet unmistakable. People respect it instinctively, even if they don't consciously realize why. By not reacting first, strong people set a tone that others unconsciously follow, shifting the dynamics of interaction without ever raising their voice. Ultimately, strong people use silence because it allows them to respond with intention instead of emotion. They understand that words spoken too soon often escalate, misrepresent, or weaken their position. By waiting, they choose the moment that maximizes impact, ensures clarity, and preserves integrity. Silence gives them perspective, preserves energy, and reveals truth. It's not about avoidance, it's about mastering the situation before the situation masters them. That's why strong people never react first. They let silence do the work that impulsive words could never achieve, and in that silence, they hold the real power. Strong people prioritize listening before speaking because they understand that words without understanding are often wasted or misused. They don't rush to fill silence or defend themselves immediately. Instead, they give full attention to what the other person is saying, not just to the words, but to the tone, the emotion behind it, and the intent underneath. Listening this way provides insight into the situation that reacting first could never give. It allows them to see patterns, contradictions, and motivations that most people miss in the heat of the moment. By observing and understanding fully before responding, they gain an advantage not through force, but through knowledge. That insight is far more powerful than immediate expression. When strong people listen first, they create a space where others feel heard, which often lowers tension and softens defenses. Most conflicts escalate because both sides feel the need to assert themselves before truly understanding the other. By staying quiet and listening, the strong person shifts the dynamic. Others often reveal more than they intended, sometimes even uncovering their own weaknesses or inconsistencies. This strategic patience isn't about manipulation. It's about gathering the truth, because the truth can't be obtained when emotions are running high and everyone is trying to be heard over one another. Listening first allows clarity to emerge naturally, and clarity always leads to better choices. Listening also allows strong people to manage their own emotional responses effectively. When you fully hear someone before reacting, you're less likely to take things personally or get triggered by assumptions. The act of listening forces a moment of pause, which prevents knee-jerk reactions. Strong people understand that most conflicts are less about what's actually being said and more about how they interpret it emotionally. By listening first, they can separate the facts from the feelings, which allows them to respond rationally and strategically rather than reacting impulsively. This self-control ensures that their words carry authority, not regret. Another reason strong people listen first is because it gives them perspective on timing. Reacting immediately often creates unnecessary escalation, but listening allows them to choose the right moment to speak. They can decide when their response will have the most impact, when it will be understood, and when it will influence outcomes most effectively. The pause created by listening ensures that their voice lands with intention rather than noise. This careful timing is what makes their responses feel measured, confident, and respected. People instinctively feel the difference between someone who reacts impulsively and someone who responds with full awareness. Listening first also builds trust, both in others and in themselves. When people feel genuinely heard, they are more open and cooperative, even in difficult conversations. Strong people leverage this natural trust without forcing it. They know that influence and respect are earned through understanding and patience, not through quick reactions. By practicing listening, they develop a reputation for calm, measured, and thoughtful responses, which enhances their authority and presence in any situation. This approach doesn't just solve conflicts, it strengthens relationships, whether personal or professional. At the core, strong people listen first because they value insight over ego. They recognize that reacting without understanding often leads to regret, miscommunication, and wasted energy. Listening allows them to understand intentions, navigate complexity, and respond with intelligence and composure. They don't need to dominate the conversation to hold power. They let knowledge and understanding guide them. That is why they never react first. They respond after fully understanding, and in that response lies their true strength, influence, and clarity. Strong people respond with intention instead of reacting with emotion because they understand the difference between action that is deliberate and action that is impulsive. Reacting is fast, raw, and often fueled by anger, fear, or frustration. Responding with intention requires patience, awareness, and control. It means taking a moment to process what's happening, consider the impact of your words, and decide what aligns with your values. This ability allows them to handle difficult situations without losing themselves. Every word, tone, and gesture is chosen with care, so their responses carry weight and meaning, not just volume or speed. Responding with intention starts with awareness. Strong people pay attention to their internal state, noticing the surge of emotion before it dictates their behavior. They don't let feelings rule their actions. Instead, they acknowledge what they feel without acting on it immediately, allowing space for clarity to emerge. In that space, they can choose a response that reflects who they truly are rather than who they feel in the moment.